Hey guys, Youngblood with you for the 15th episode of the Inbox, where I answer your questions. And the first one today is going to be from Alejo Ruiz Camauer, saying, Youngblood, do you think people will have a reason to use SCM in cruise modes with the size of the universe, and do you think it'll be just quantum drive all the time? If you're talking about just covering mass distances, quantum drive is the go-to no-brainer, but it's also going to be limited by the fact that you have a limited amount of fuel that is going to work in that, in that role. Additionally, I think we know a lot of this game is going to be at a slower pace. Combat, you're going to be in SCM mode. Mining, you're probably going to be in precision or SCM mode. Exploration, maybe you're in cruise mode. I think it's going to be too fast in quantum to do any real high-level exploration. So there's going to be a lot of activities that require you to use things like precision, SCM, and cruise modes. Quantum's going to be the go-to go a long distance, but ultimately you're going to need the slower speeds, and there's different things that fall within those categories. So you're not going to be just in quantum all the time. Malis Luifas says, I'm looking to build a PC that can run Star Citizen over the next few years, essentially future-proof. What specs do you think such a PC should have? I'm going to come right out and say it. I'm fairly good with PC hardware, but I'm not like an expert. I don't know necessarily how the game's been programmed and what it favors. That being said, I will answer a few of your questions here with my just personal opinion. Should it be an i7 or an i5? To date, we haven't seen a real lot of benefit in getting an i7 for gaming. The real benefit between an i5 and an i7, when you go to the i7, you have the hyper-threading, you've got the virtual cores there, and that does well for things like video rendering and encoding. So if you're getting into YouTube, I would say an i7, but if you're just talking about pure gaming, that i5 seems to really strike the best balance of single-core performance to price. But you're in the right category. I always would recommend Intel over AMD. I wish AMD was putting up a better fight, but it's just not there today. Minimum GPU, boy, I don't know. My 680 before I upgrade to my 980 Ti did pretty well. I don't necessarily think that it's going to give you outstanding performance at that level, but something like a 970, a 780, something in that range is probably going to give you decent mid to low range performance. But we don't really know. Is what we're seeing right now a good indication of the type of hardware that you need, or is it unoptimized and you could actually get by with less? There's also the flip side of that, where there's a lot less going on in game right now than there's going to be in the persistent universe. There's going to be more ships, bigger instances, and what impact that has on our hardware makes kind of a different impact. Right now, you say optimal GPU. Again, I'm interested in seeing what Pascal comes out with. I don't know what it's going to be. Some of the high memory bandwidth is going to be really interesting as well. But, again, we don't know until we get it, and we get it in game. Talking about RAM, you say, is 8GB RAM enough? I would say so. I've got 16. It's probably overkill. You may end up getting some better performance by overclocking it or getting a fast RAM. But right now, my 16 gig at 1600 megahertz is doing pretty well. And then you ask about a 250 gigabyte SSD. I would just say whatever the end game size is, that's what you want to end up with. 500 is probably safer, but absolutely go SSD over just standard hard drive. Grogimek 4115. Me and a few mates want to do bounty hunting across the persistent universe, with there being about 10 players. With this, we wish to have at least 4 fighters on board the mothership. What ship do you think would be the best for a max crew of 6 with a hangar for 4? There is not really that ship in game. The closest thing that kind of meets those requirements would be the Idris. It's one of the only ones that actually has that hangar really there and available for you. That being said, I think an Idris is going to require more than 6 people, to really be a proficient, ship to be fully crewed. So I would say you're probably better off getting something like, a constellation with some fighters that just happen to be around. You also then get the ability to have the snub nose that's actually docked. Or maybe we just get something else, perhaps when we get around to the Caterpillar, you get the ability to do some docking. I don't really know, but there's not really many ships that have a hangar, so the Idris really fits your needs best. If you go that route, then I would say you want to make sure that you've got a lot of NPCs, or you're comfortable hiring a lot of NPCs to fill the, kind of those stopgaps for you. Diet Adam says, do you think the Drake Dragonfly will be made? If so, what roles do you see it and any other space motorcycles filling? I kind of like to see high-stakes racing with them or Hell's Angels-style gangs. Yeah, the Drake Dragonfly is being made. And as far as the roles go, it's going to be interesting to see. It's gone back and forth on whether it can actually have quantum drive or not. It's gone back and forth on whether you're going to be able to land on planets with it or not. And I think some of that's going to depend on how much the player is actually exposed in the ship. If the player is entirely encased, then I think landing is a possibility with the Dragonfly. But in my mind, if the snub nose, which is a fully functioning craft, cannot equip a quantum drive, then I don't think the Dragonfly is going to equip a quantum drive either. I think it's going to be best in situations where you can dock maybe 2 of them on the front of a Caterpillar, and you're going to launch them to kind of be supplemental fighters, almost like the Constellation unleashing a Merlin to do some extra damage. I think that's going to be the primary role for the ship, but I could absolutely see it kind of fitting into, like a racing type of situation as well. Zenez says, will info running be a career that can be done on the right side of the law, or is it more or less a gray to black area type of career? I'm thinking of this as an early game career instead of cargo hauling, but I don't want to ruin my reputation with the UEE. I mentioned this in a previous video, not specifically regarding this type of question, but I think you are going to be able to do info running in a good way, and part of that is based on the way that we have, the jump points. So there's going to be known places where you can jump into a different system. And the information that I think we've gotten to date is that there's not going to be faster than light communication. So ultimately, if somebody needs to send information across systems, it may be faster and probably more secure to load that information up on something like a Herald, fly the Herald to that other system, and then transmit that data there. So I think there's going to be aspects like that where it's going to be effective. Probably loading it on a Herald is a more data secure solution as well. So as opposed to just broadcasting it where, and we saw this with that Project Uadine post where they were talking about the Retribution class. People were able to hack the signals that were traveling through the system. If somebody's got some very, very, very secure data, and knowing that the Herald has the ability to do a data wipe if it has to, giving that information to a Herald to actually take is a much safer option than broadcasting it. So there's going to be things in game on the right side of the law that you can do in the info running category. Daniel Matheny says, hey, what do you think about the Anvil Crucible? I really want to get the game and be the repair ship in an organization, but I'm not sure how it will be profitable or how it will be used by the organization being a fighter repair ship. I'm a fan of the Crucible. I don't own one. I think it's a really cool ship. We don't have a whole lot of repair mechanics in game yet, so I think it's going to be interesting and fun to do. I think it's going to be profitable, but I think it's going to be reliant on you putting yourself in the right situation to make the money. So if you're hanging around, a star or a space station where there's repair shops on board, well, why would somebody go to you as opposed to being able to drop their ship off at a repair bay where they can then go get a bite to eat, have a beer, hang with friends, do whatever? You would have to then cut your prices that you're going to charge other players to actually be competitive in that market. That being said, if you instead take your Crucible to a place where there are not repair shops, you're the only game in town, and people want to play that game. So, if there's a big battle going on, or maybe even just hanging out in a system nearby where a big battle with like the Vandals going on, you all of a sudden can offer up your services to where somebody's not going to have to travel across space. You can do it right there, get them back into the fight, and that's how you can end up making a lot of money there. So I think those are the types of situations you want to look out for and put yourself into. Sandra Jamshed says, beef or chicken? Beef. I eat chicken more often just because, it's healthy and all that good stuff. But I prefer beef. Broccoli or spinach. Generally broccoli. And pizza or pasta. A good pizza. I do love pasta, but that is a hard one to pick. But I would say pizza. And for the last question in this episode, Hellenic Spartan says, hey, Youngblood, in regards to the Reliant Tana, how many weapons can we have on it if we choose to have fixed? And will we be able to have larger guns installed over the size 1, size 2 guns? And how do you think the variants will come out after the core? Or how soon do you think they'll come out? So as far as the weaponry is concerned, I think it's going to be interesting to see what flexibility they give us. For example, there's kind of that ball turret on one of the wings. Are you able to actually equip remove that turret and just put like a size 3 or size 4 fixed weapon there. Based on the design of the ship, I don't think we're going to be able to do that, but it's a possibility. There's also other areas on the ship where I think you could potentially really start adding things in. Ultimately, the end kind of what you should be going by is going to be what's the size port that's on the ship right now, and then -1 if it's a gimbal. So I don't really know how to answer that, because I think we need to actually see the ship, see what flexibility we have in it, and when we get the core, I think we'll know a little bit more. But things change in concept, so it's a really hard question to answer. I think there was a lot of people that were surprised when the Xi'an Scout came out with only 2 weapons on it. So the same treatment may end up happening for the Reliant. We just don't really know. So as soon as it does come out, though, I'll absolutely answer that question in a little bit more detail. The other piece of that is how soon after will the variants come? I would envision it's going to be a significant amount of time. You'll get the core and hangar, and we can look at several different examples. We've got the we got the Constellation rework done, but you don't have the Phoenix or the Taurus or the Aquila done again. We got the Freelancer update, but we don't have the Max or the Miss or the Dur done yet. So basically what they're doing is they're putting in the base model, using that as a design document, if you will, and kind of putting the rest on hold while they're getting other ships flight ready, trying to get as many in-game as possible. So hopefully that answered your question. And remember, guys, if you have questions, get them in the comments. It may take me a couple weeks, maybe even a month to get to your questions, but I'm committed to just continuing the series because it's a lot of fun to do. If you have questions, get them in. Otherwise, I will talk to you guys soon. Have yourselves a wonderful weekend and take care.